I think it's a beautiful day to talk about being judgmental. What do you think? I was in a meeting. It was an agile retrospective, which is a review meeting for the performance of the people during the sprint and whatever went okay, whatever didn't go that well, what we can improve, and various ways to approach this. What I noticed this time more than normally, I noticed how the mood changes when at least one someone is being judgmental about whatever they perceive as not being more specifically their way. And it got me thinking, how did you deal with quitting corporate world?
Actually, it was interesting because the most judgmental person, it was actually me. I was born with this concept of you have to study and get as high as you can get in any rank available. I was very smart and very IT-like or a T material, let's call it this way. I was very, very technical, but also very flower power on the other hand. So it was an interesting combination. For a while, I did whatever the technical side of me felt like had to be done to be checked, like the tick in a box. But it was not really me. I mean, I could perform like this, but it was not bringing me joy. I felt the moment I told my coworkers that I'm quitting, they were all very interested to find out which other company made me such a good offer. What's the career shift? Where am I going with this? And when they heard I'm like quitting corporate, quitting the technical field and doing something completely different, very artsy, wellnessly, mentoring, like more like on a human level, they were like, okay. I could feel in their eyes, like my IQ dropped completely. I feel like I was just getting dumber just by telling them my story. So they didn't actually say that, okay, you're being stupid for doing this. But their tone and the way they were asking like vague questions, like not knowing where to go with the conversation and suddenly embarrassed to be in a conversation about this subject that make them feel uncomfortable. Yeah, it was uneasy for them. They couldn't handle that shift in the conversation. So yeah, after a while they got used to it and they put the label, so they were fine. They didn't feel the need to keep stamping it.
And it's exactly the same what happens to software engineers. There are a couple of, if you look at the agile methodology, but even outside of it, depending on whatever the company is using, you definitely have a sort of peer review where you review as a developer, as a test engineer, you review your peers' code. I use the generic code reviews because it's easier for everyone to understand. You check whatever someone else did, but you check it in terms of whether it meets the needs, whether it follows the industry guidelines, no security flaws, something that can be exploited, errors are handled, and so on and so forth. That is basically what is supposed to happen. But whoever is reviewing, it's human. So then we have our personal angle, and that is highly influenced by by the way we develop things, right? And sometimes it's difficult to just review facts, but you review the person. And then you tend to become judgmental. I would never write code like this. What happened here? Why does this make any sense? How can someone code in this manner? And of course, you can extrapolate what happens in the other meetings as well. I choose code reviews as a closer example because they're more private, actually. It's easier to slip down that path. then you have to add comments, right? You communicate to whoever submitted the code for code review. And if you are judgmental, and if you ask yourself, how does this make any sense? What a strange way to write it. That is obvious in the way you interact with that person. They feel judged.
Reviewing someone's code and then like 10 minutes afterwards meeting with that person face to face and to be like, hey, I just evaluate not just your work, but your personality, your way of thinking, who you are as a grown-up. This ever I don't know, affect your human relationship? Because in a way it becomes personal.
I would love it if the answer would be no way, but I still find myself reviewing deliverables from my colleagues. It doesn't necessarily happen on one deliverable. It takes a few now for me at least, but I still use some labels. Right now, I definitely label some levels of of seniority, of experience in that particular area. Uh, but at times, let's say I'm tired or I've had enough, or I've been to a meeting where people were grumpy and moody and judgmental and blaming people. Uh, that's when my judgment kind of extends to what that human being might be.
Yeah, it doesn't stick to the professional level, it becomes more general. Sometimes maybe if you're like a very emotional person and you take things personal, I think it's very easy to give the same to have the same comeback towards people and to become personal in a way you're judging their work. And then yeah, in the way you talk to people in the hallway or at the coffee shop, you know, your coworkers, I mean, because hey, I know the way you wrote this or that, like you're sloppy, your logic is weird or stuff like that. But I'm not sure how can you fix the situation if there's even something to be fixed, because you're always going to have code reviews and people will always, you'll always have people who are more sensitive to criticism or to the whole office atmosphere, and people who are more like, I don't give a crap, I'm just myself and I know I'm good at what I do, and if I made a mistake, I will not do it again. You know, they go easy through that kind of labeling or experience. But is there something that people can do to grow in this area and to be more professional in a way?
I completely agree with the fact that we will forever have code reviews because they've proven to be very efficient. They bring a lot of value, and we'll always have, or we should always have anyway, um, retrospective meetings and various types of reviews. They bring a lot of value. How could we improve our approach in these instances? I think, like we discussed in the blame game, I think focusing on the facts, on the actual code, not on the human being, on the person creating the code, that's one way. If we can, of course. But even when you are not emotional, you still have emotions. Even if you have the most amazing day and you are in a great mood, you might still feel judgmental or feel judged.
People are not the same. Even two people dealing with the same tasks or having the same job profile and with the similar background, the similar family situation, and they still could behave completely different or have different approach to coding or just to life in general.
I wouldn't propose a solution stating put yourself in someone else's shoes, just because when someone offers me that solution, um, I become very judgmental, to say the least. Maybe I know it helps. It helps me if I think of reasons, just brainstorm with myself, reasons, ideas, why why it would make sense to approach to write code in that way. At least I might not get an actual answer or the way that person was thinking, but at least it gets me out of the judgmental phase. So I stop being judgmental the minute I start brainstorming ideas. In what situations I would write like this. And if I really, really consider things could be changed or could be improved, or they wouldn't work the way it is written, I try to find a way to discuss with the person. It helps being vulnerable if you approach a situation where the other person needs to change their way, or they have to fix a mistake, because when they made a mistake, let's assume most people feel vulnerable. It's a safe assumption, although not all of them would feel vulnerable, but being vulnerable, at least it puts you on close enough to the same position they're in.
Yeah.
And the other thing I found it works is asking, being genuinely curious.
With the desire to hear the answer and not just prepare your reply or, arrange your strategy.
Exactly. Without thinking, I know the solution, I'm better, or I don't know, more experienced or whatever. I know the solution. I want to catch the other on the wrong answer, so I would give them my right one. Ask if you want to learn more. But if approaching things like that, make sure you are curious.
Implies that you would also hear the other's opinion and motive, like you said, to find out how does your brain work, not in an offensive way or in a ironic way, but like you said, genuinely understanding that some people would find connections between cause and effect, or like way they analyze a process or a situation very different than the way you do it. I mean, this is the common root cause of most problems in organization, companies, offices, and any workplace. The fact that you don't understand them, the way you think might not be the same way your coworker is thinking. And what's obvious to you might be completely out of this world to someone else. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it may happen.
You can be as experienced as you can get, right? Even after, I don't know, more than 15 years in my domain, I still learn new things.
This is basically the way brainstorms or the process of brainstorming has been developed. You start with the assumption that people next to you have a different mindset and a different way of seeing things, and you gather everything and see what you can get out of it. The fact that the other one is thinking in a different way and in a more personal way than you are, it's the foundation or a good strategy in the work environment. So yeah, I think it will help to remind ourselves from once in a while, hey, the other guy is not able to read my mind, and I am unable to read their mind and to find out their motives or the way their logic works.
Even without reading people's minds, we can ask them. It's easier than reading their minds. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo if we just read minds, but we can definitely ask them, and it makes more sense if former colleagues would have asked you and they would have been curious about whatever you are planning to do next. Would you have opened up more?
Definitely. I would have felt that the conversation is a safer environment for me to be who I am, and that I wouldn't have to conform to a certain image of the corporate engineer. Yeah, I think when you're like being open-minded and, like you said, asking genuine questions about, in my case, why this career shift. This creates a good place for an open conversation, and actually one that would strengthen our relationship, and that would have made me feel more confident in my choice. Whenever you have the chance to share your convictions or your life choices to someone who is not necessarily supportive, but really just curious and wants to understand and to learn more, or just to find out from a good source, not gossip, but just like the true source, to find out why. And when you have to reinstate your conviction or your life choice, it's like you feel more confident.
It's my gain, their loss. When you left corporate world and decided to work with Qualinest as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a different environment, and a more creative and challenging type of situation. Yeah, I think this is like, it sounds like when someone says that they want to have world peace and stop world hunger, let's all stop being judgmental. It's a dream. It's challenging for the human nature, not to be able to judge people, to measure them according to your views and your standard. But those who are able to do it and to support other people being different and doing something else and having completely different views, I think they do good to humanity.
They also do good by themselves, because not being judgmental, that's the whole point. Not being judgmental helps you grow. Being judgmental keeps you stuck in old patterns and makes you obsolete. This is the idea of our podcast. You can definitely follow us for more.
Don't be judgmental. Don't be judgmental towards our podcast.
Oh, you can definitely be. Write them in comments.
Bye.
See you in the next one. Bye.